Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from South Carolina in the United States. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 42. The start of the NBA season is upon us. And joining me today are my always welcome guests, Reuben and Oscar Hardcastle. How are you guys today?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, feeling good about my picks.
That is good to hear. The sun is shining bright, hopefully, for you guys in Australia, while it is very dark for me over here in South Carolina.
Beautiful day today.
Cloudy day for me here.
No,
I'm glad to hear. We're all in different cities, all in 3 different time zones, actually. So it was a wonder that we're able to pull this episode together. But we give the viewers what they want. We are here. Now, I know I have been a bit quiet in the past few weeks with the NFL, but not to worry, because the NBA is here, and who doesn't like talking a bit of basketball? So, for this episode today, we are going to give you our picks for the 2023-2024 NBA season. We will cover who we think will be in the finals, both in the conference finals and the NBA finals, and go over our picks for all the major awards that everyone is talking about for the season. Now, to begin things off, we're going to go and look at the conferences because there has been a lot of movement within the conferences respectively. We'll start with the East because we saw what happened with the Damian Lillard trade, the biggest bombshell of the offseason, which ended up in Jrue Holiday being acquired by the Boston Celtics, forming a two-headed monster in the East. Or that's at least what everyone seems to be perceiving it as. So, according to the odds per FanDuel Sportsbook, the favorites to come out of the East goes Boston, then Milwaukee, then Cleveland, then Philadelphia, then Miami. I think that's a pretty solid 5, in my opinion. For the West, we have the Nuggets, Suns, Lakers, Warriors, and Grizzlies, which I think that 5 has a bit more contentious elements to it. But we're going to start with the East. Look, we're not going to go deep into the playoff bracket because we're going to be talking all day about which team's going to end up going in the play-in tournament, which team's going to be the 8 seed, the 7 seed. We're going to get straight into the nitty-gritties of it. And, Reuben, I'm going to ask you first. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference. Who do you see when the playoffs roll around? Who is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals matchup and why?
You literally summed it up perfectly in the playoffs.
yeah, I agree there. I mean, the Celtics look insane now. The Bucks, obviously, with people saying without Jrue Holiday, the Bucks are going to be a bit shaky on the defensive side. But I think we forget how good defensively that team is just in general. Giannis is a decoy. Brook Lopez was balling last year on the defensive side of things.
He was a top 3 candidate too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just that team is just so hard to look by. And the Celtics now, with Jrue, just look insane. So, it is hard to go past those two teams. And what a matchup. What a matchup it will be to watch if it plays out that way.
Yeah, listen, I tend to agree with at least half of what you guys are saying. But before I give you my picks, I want to ask you a few questions, Oscar, because all I heard last season was about Cleveland, about Philadelphia, about mainly these 2 teams, but more so Philly. You were big fans of both of these teams. Where do you see them fitting into this equation? Do you think either of them have a shot at challenging Boston or Milwaukee?
No.
No, not even a chance. The reigning
Philly-
MVP, Joel Embiid, no shot.
Philly are going to. I think James just won't have his heart in it. I feel like, he's there to show that he's a good player for his next contract or for his next, home. And I don't know. I just don't. I love Philly, man, but they just don't look complete. I don't know, as they haven't been for the past, 5 years. And Cleveland, I did like Cleveland. I was going to put Cleveland there, but it's just so hard to look past the Bucks and the Celtics. I don't think they're not old enough. They don't have enough experience yet. So that's why I wouldn't put those 2 in it, personally.
Yeah, Reuben, do you think anyone can challenge the top of the East?
Maybe Cleveland. I think Philadelphia are going to fall off. Like the Harden will go at some point. He's probably got the fat suit ready. He's going to be looking to move to his next team. And
He already
it's
wants
so
out.
hard
He
to.
hates Daryl.
Yeah, he hates Daryl, and it's so hard to improve that Philadelphia team, especially with that massive Tobias Harris contract. Like I don't
Yeah.
know how they're going to get rid of that, and how you're meant to improve when you're already massively exceeding the salary cap. Like I think, look, they should try to rebuild. Like they're going to get rid of Embiid at some point in like the next few years, in my opinion. And Maxi is young. I think they should build around him in the future, but
Maxi's
I
a
just don't see
freak.
anyone
He's
else
a freak
competing.
ball,
Maybe the
man.
Cavs, but that's it.
Yeah, listen, personally, I think out of the 5 teams that are listed here, that Miami has a much better chance of knocking
Oh
off
yeah,
both
100%.
Milwaukee or Boston than Cleveland or Philadelphia. Purely, I just think that when you look at Philadelphia and Cleveland, for me, I have never been a big fan of either of those teams. I just don't think, I think they're good, but I don't think they're good enough to really advance in the playoffs. Both were utterly disappointing last year. Cleveland got manhandled by the New York Knicks, who had their first playoff success in a while. And Philadelphia, seemingly once again, came crashing down in the playoffs. You can say whatever you want about Joel Embiid being injured, but that did happen. So when I look at my pick, I look at Boston, I look at Milwaukee, I look at a Milwaukee team that should be incredibly hungry after their disappointing playoffs last year. Giannis was also injured too. He came back and they still lost to the Miami Heat. He didn't put up the best stats in the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there. We know what Giannis Antetokounmpo brings to the table, and we know the mentality he has, and that he is going to come with everything in the playoffs, assuming he is healthy. Now I look at his running mate, Damian Lillard, who hasn't been in the playoffs for 2 years now. He hasn't been in the playoffs for 2 years, but when he was last in the playoffs, he averaged 34, 4, and 10. Okay? Now look, it's been a while,
Insane.
and by the time these playoffs roll around, it's going to be 3 years when these playoffs roll around. So it'll be 3 full years since he's been in the playoffs. But I still think he has a lot in the tank to perform in the playoffs. So I think Milwaukee is going to be in the conference finals as my first pick. Now, when I look at the Celtics, I do like what the Celtics did this offseason. I like the addition of Kristaps Porzingis. I like what they did with Drew Holiday. But I believe in them more than I believe in a team like Philadelphia. But it seems like they still sort of hit this hump year after year. I feel like that year they got into the finals was really not by default. They did play a 7 game series with Miami, but I feel like the path through the Eastern Conference that year they lost to the Golden State Warriors was a relatively easy path, and they came crashing down in the finals when they had a 87% chance on their ESPN index to win. They came crashing down. Last year's playoffs, same thing again, to Miami. Jaylen Brown, we know what happened with him. He's got a huge deal this offseason. And there's something that just gives me cause to pause for Boston. And I would like to agree with you guys. And deep down in my heart of hearts, I sort of do. And I do think Boston will likely make the conference finals. But I do want to throw a curveball out here because there is a team that isn't in this top 5 that I actually think is going to verse Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. And this is a team that I believe have the potential, and they could come crashing down because it seems that after one year they play good and the next year they play bad. But I think they're going to make some moves during the midseason, and I think that the New York Knicks are going to make
Oh,
the
knew it.
Eastern Conference Finals to face the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, listen, before I start getting flamed by you guys, Jalen Brunson last playoffs averaged 28, 5, and 6. RJ Barrett came alive in the playoffs against the Cavaliers and absolutely torched them, shooting 45% from three, averaging 20 points per game. I don't like what Julius Randle did in last year's playoffs, and he's the X factor for them, really. But they got Dante DiVincenzo for the chemistry. He is somewhat, I think, of a difference maker when you look at a first round, second round series. But I just think that last year, when you looked at the New York Knicks and the Celtics, the Knicks beat they were 3-1 against the Celtics in the season series, so they know how to beat them, and you guys can't deny that. Now, Reuben, I see you shaking your head. Oscar, I can't actually see you because my computer's blocking you. But Reuben, I'll give you the first chance to respond.
Oh,
What do you think?
I remember recalling, wasn't Butler at some point injured in the Knicks Heat series, and they
Yeah, that
still
was
lost in 5 or 6?
Yep.
And look, I've had my concerns with the Celtics in the past, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of Tatum, but I think by acquiring the pieces that they did in the offseason, they've solved all their problems. Like, a big issue the Celtics have had in the past is turning the ball over, and that's because they haven't had a proper point guard. But I think by having Drew Holiday, having the ball, him carrying the ball up and having that leadership in the locker room, I think they're going to turn over the ball less, and I think that's going to be a huge contribution as to why they're going to do better this season. It was a very underrated pickup.
I 100% agree. I think the Celtics are one of the most complete teams in the league. I look at that team and there's not many holes there. You know, you've got Kristaps now. You've got a big guy who can shoot the ball. And who's 7'3", you can defend the spot. You've got an MVP talent in Jason Tatum, and you've got a guy on one of the biggest contracts we've ever seen who needs to now prove himself who needs to prove himself on this team. And then you've also had a Drew Holiday who's one of the best, point defenders we've ever seen. So there's not many holes in this starting lineup at least, and I don't know. They just look like they're going to be really good. I think Drew Holiday is one of the most underrated pickups from any team.
Yep.
He can hop into a team and ball out. Any team, doesn't matter. He brings so much to a side like that, which is already so offensively, gifted. So,
Listen, I first of all, I understand what both of you are saying, but I want to stop the narrative that Drew Holiday's an underrated pickup because he propelled the Celtics to the top of the NBA title odds as soon as he went there. So clearly, he wasn't really viewed as an underrated pickup by the NBA world.
In the fact that people like you were going to say the New York Knicks are going to be over them. That is unheard of. That is unheard of.
Listen, I understand what you're saying, but when I look at the Boston Celtics, on paper, I agree with you, but I have reservations as to when it comes to playoff basketball, how they're going to play together as a team. Kristaps Porzingis has never been a player for the bright lights, okay? Now, he will be, the fourth scoring option on this team. So maybe when he's that far down the pecking order, he might be able to conjure something up. But he flopped with the Knicks. He flopped with the Mavericks. He played good with the Wizards, but they're the Wizards. And that led him to the Boston Celtics. So he's going to play well in the regular season. He might give you 18, 19 points a game, maybe more, maybe a bit less as a fourth option. But in the playoffs, I do not trust him 1 cent. Okay? I don't trust him 1 cent. Drew Holiday, I agree. Underrated pickup. Defensive superstar, two-way ball player. But when Giannis Antetokounmpo was out in the playoffs last year, he realistically wasn't really anywhere to be found. And when Giannis did come back, all that happened was Drew Holiday just got manhandled by Jimmy Butler. So I think Drew Holiday, as good as he is, he needs to have that go-to superstar on his team. Now, is Tatum that superstar?
No, he's an MVP.
He's an MVP candidate, but is he a superstar? I say he is not. He is there, but he is not a superstar. When you look at the players around the NBA,
39
and
5 isn't a superstar.
No. Sorry?
39 and 5 isn't a superstar.
Wait. What superstars on the Knicks, Luka? What superstars on the Knicks?
His stats.
What's 39 and 5? 39 and 5 where?
Wasn't it last season? It's Jason Tatum's stats?
39 points.
No, 30 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yeah, but okay, Reuben, I'll address what you're about to say next. Okay, because I understand what you're saying too. I understand what you're saying.
What superstars on the Knicks? Who's better than Tatum on the Knicks?
No. I am saying. Okay,
Julius.
Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, when he had Giannis at full health, that allowed Drew Holiday to be the best version of himself that he could be. Okay? But I do not think that if Tatum plays bad or if Jaylen Brown plays bad, that Drew Holiday is going to be that guy who's going to lift them up because Chris Middleton was that guy in Milwaukee when Giannis didn't play bad. Now, he had a brilliant defensive play against the Suns in the game 5 of the NBA Finals. But I just do not think that this team is going to gel together in the playoffs. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both turnover hungry. Drew Holiday, yeah.
But they're not going to have that with Drew Holiday, a proper point guard.
But I disagree. I still think that these problems, because they love the isolation. Jaylen Brown is an isolation scorer. Okay, he needs the ball in his hands. Tatum, not so much. You can put him on the wing and let him operate. I just think that the Celtics, I just think they had too much in a way. I think they had too much, and it's not all going to work on the court together in the playoffs.
I want to see what you think about the Suns.
It's the same. I have the exact same thing about the Suns. It's the exact same thing, which is why I said the Suns were not going to go anywhere in the playoffs last year because they had too much, and it just wouldn't gel.
Too much on the offensive end, nothing on the defensive end. That was the Suns.
No, but they had
Celtics are more complete than the Suns. That's not comparable.
You look at the Celtics team, and there's defense and there's offense, and it's going to gel because Drew Holiday is a gel player. He's like
and they got Derek White off the bench.
I know who they have.
He's like Alonzo Ball. He can hop on your squad and do the job needed to be done.
Okay, the Bulls are not relevant in this conversation.
No, I'm just saying that's the type of player he is.
They're not relevant in this conversation.
It's just the type of player he is.
Listen, I'm going to quickly finish because we've gone drastically over time on this first segment. But Reuben, to the Knicks, I believe that with the type of basketball the Knicks play, it's Jalen Brunson is waiting to explode, and he averaged 28, 5, and 6.
Fading away. Listen, half the time. What are we doing, team basketball?
And they won in spite of him. And I said they're going to make a splash in the mid-season trade market, and I really believe that they will. So, listen, take time on this, okay? We'll revisit this, okay? But I'm telling you that I'm not sold on the Celtics. I don't think they're going to get it done. And I think it's going to be one of the biggest disappointments of the whole NBA season when the Celtics go crashing out of the playoffs, okay? So, we're going to move to the Western Conference in the interest of time. Similar stories. You guys are going to bash me for my pick, but we'll see what you guys come up with first. So, we'll go quickly. Nuggets, Suns, Lakers, Warriors, Grizzlies make up the top 5. Oscar, I'll go to you first. Give me your conference finals pick.
My first pick is the Suns. I think, and I know what you were saying about the Suns earlier, but you just look at a team like that, and people say, oh, they're all the same player, but different tiers. But at the end of the day, like, what do you do against that? It's Kevin Durant, it's Devin Booker, and it's Bradley Beal. How do you beat that? It's Kevin Durant's trying to beat these super team allegations, and he's just gone and built another one. So I really do like the Suns. I think they're going to be, people are going to say there's no defense there. They've got holes. They obviously have holes, but I just think the offense is going to be too crazy to do anything about that. On the other hand, I got the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to be very good this year.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's LeBron's. LeBron's he's getting to the end of his career, more or less, and I think he's going to really push for that next championship. I think he will really, really push for that next championship. As long as that team stays healthy. I don't know.
Okay.
There's always about AD and LeBron himself. So I don't know. But I like the Lakers.
Yeah, Rubes.
They look good.
That's interesting. I have similar to Oscar. Like, I'll say my first pick. I don't know how you could take them out. It's the Nuggets. They were such a good team, convincingly the best team last season. I don't know who's going to clamp up Jokic in the playoffs. I don't think there is anyone comparable. Maybe an Anthony Davis, but that's about it. I think that's a guaranteed pick. And I've got the Lakers as well. Their depth is unreal. Okay. And they were 18-8 after the Westbrook trade. They're going to do bits this season. I think it's LeBron's last chance to go for that ring.
I think LeBron's going to ball out, man.
Yeah, look, the West is loaded this year. The West is loaded. I've tossed and turned over this for a very long time as as to who I want to pick in my Western Conference Finals because you
If
have
you
the Nuggets,
say
you have the
Clippers,
Suns, you have the Nuggets, you have the Suns. Look, when I look at the Suns, I last year and this year I two completely different teams. So when I talk about the Suns last year and how they had too much and how their roster wasn't balanced and how it was never going to work for them in the playoffs, that was what I meant last year. I think they have made a lot of good moves going out and actually getting a really, really sound roster. And I think Vogel is a defensive coach who hopefully, now that he's been with the Lakers, he's gotten some respect, hopefully being a championship winning coach, that he can bring out the best of them. I still am interested to see who takes over
Mickey
the lead
Mouse.
point guard role out of the three of them. I mean, because they can all realistically, I don't necessarily think one of the three is better at point guarding than the rest. I think they want Booker to ascend
I
into
pick
that
Booker.
point guard role.
I think Booker.
I
He was
think
showing
I
really
think
good.
that's how it's going to work. I think that's how it's going to work. But I'm just saying. But when you have Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal in your team and Booker's not doing it, you can say, "Give me the
Anyone can
rock."
bring up that ball.
And
Yeah.
you know, exactly. And Bradley Beal, when without John Wall, he was the point guard for the Wizards, and I'm interested to see what he does. Now, I agree, Reuben, Denver Nuggets. I think I'm going to put them in my conference finals too because I just don't see how over the course of a 7-game series you can realistically stop them. And maybe someone will find something.
They don't have Brucey B anymore.
I do think the Suns have the best chance of beating the Nuggets, if I'm being honest. I think the Suns do. And my pick, and it's a bit annoying because we haven't done the playoff brackets, but my picks are based off who I think is going to match up in the second rounds. Because I think the Lakers and the Nuggets
Okay.
are actually going to match up in the second round. And I'm going to have the Nuggets beating the Lakers in the second round. That's how I'm viewing it. And I think the Clippers and the Suns are going to match up in the second round on the other side. And I am going to not have the Suns in my conference finals, and I'm going to put the Clippers against the Nuggets in the conference finals, and I'll tell you why. Okay, and it is very speculatory, and it is because I think the Clippers are a better team than the Phoenix Suns, and they know how to beat them. And ultimately, they really showed that in one game, but they really didn't get to show you that because Kawhi got injured and Paul George wasn't playing the entire series. But I think this year, finally, for the Clippers, will be a year they can actually do something with themselves. It's the last year being in Staples Center. They're going to want to go out on a bang. They have the Westbrook factor, but I think that from start to finish, this is the first time. Okay, this is the first time that Kawhi and Paul George have played in the preseason together for the whole time they have been at the Clippers. And I think when you look at the rosters side by side, I don't think you can definitively say that there is a better team in the Western Conference than the Clippers when everyone is fully healthy. Now, I don't have the Clippers winning in the conference finals because I think the Nuggets are, when push comes to shove, just a better team than the Clippers. I don't think the Clippers can stop Jokic. So I have the Nuggets from the Western Conference advancing to the NBA Finals for the second time in 2 years. But Oscar, I'll let you tear me to shreds first this time because Reuben got the honor of doing that last time.
I just think you say this every year. What changes? You say the same thing every year. Like, the Clippers going to be this, Clippers going to be that, and then they come out and they're nothing. They're nowhere. So
Yep,
I just
it's valid.
whenever you say the Clippers are going to do well, I will bet the opposite. I will bet the opposite. That's just my take on it.
I would just like to say, Luka, I know you've slated Harden in the past. Is your pick based on the assumption that the Clippers are going to get Harden or not?
No. If the Clippers actually acquire James Harden, I will go as far to say I might actually stop becoming a Clippers fan. That's how much I hate James Harden because he is the ultimate locker room cancer loser player
That would be a
I do
cool
not
trade,
want
though.
on that team. No, that would be disaster. When I talk about teams that have too much, can you imagine Westbrook and Harden back on the same team with Kawhi? And it would just
Fun
be an
team
absolute
to watch.
It
It'd
would
be
just be
really
an
fun
absolute disaster.
That's
it
the
would be an absolute
definition of a
disaster.
regular.
No,
That's
no,
the definition of a
no,
regular season team.
no.
That is a regular
No,
season
it would
team.
be
They're gonna get.
it would be an absolute disaster.
No, I reckon they'd get like 60 wins and then do nothing in the
Maybe,
playoffs. That's what they
maybe
do.
they would. Maybe they would. No,
It'd be
I
like
don't think. I'm saying as constructed, this Clippers team.
Okay.
I
Because
believe they can get it done.
well, the reason I don't like the Clippers is Westbrook. Like we've seen after the Lakers what they've been able to do without Westbrook and how immensely they've improved. And I always think availability is the best ability, and the fact that
Yep.
Kawhi and Paul George have been load managing, not been able to stay healthy. Like, don't get me wrong, they're a very strong team, like altogether. But it's going to be about injuries. And if we look at history, I just don't see, as Oscar said, how that's going to suddenly improve.
Yep. Listen, I agree with both of your points, and something that we will definitely debate as the season progresses. But I believe that something is going to click for this team this year, and I think that maybe as they slowly exit Staples Center, the Clippers curse will also slowly exit with them. But we will see how it goes. We'll see. We'll see how it goes for them. Look, we'll go on to the NBA Finals. I will give you my pick first because I have let you guys start off the first times. I have the Milwaukee Bucks and the Denver Nuggets in the finals, which was actually my same pick as what I had last year. But I think that year is pick maybe is a year too premature. So I'm going to go with it again this year. I will say who I think is going to win. And I think it's going to come down to who is going to do the best out of Giannis and Jokic. And for me, that player is going to be Giannis. And I think that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to beat the Denver Nuggets in 6 games, and they will win the NBA championship. I think it's aligning. I think Dame is going to be healthy. I think Giannis is going to be healthy. The Bucks, I think, will take it all this year. Whichever one of you wants to respond and give your picks, please go for it.
Rubes, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, all right. I've gone different. My finals matchup, I think the NBA would love to see this. Celtics Lakers matchup.
My pick.
Yeah.
My pick.
The Celtics are just a complete team. The Lakers have just drastically improved. Like I've already mentioned the Westbrook trade, and people forget. Like I know the Nuggets swept them last season, but like within those fourth quarters, it was within 5 points or less. Like game 1, I know that the Nuggets were up by a lot at the start of the fourth quarter, but with 3 minutes 23 to go, the Lakers were only down by 3. And I just look at it and I go, like the Nuggets have gone slightly worse. I think getting rid of Bruce Brown will be a massive mistake that will bite them eventually. And
they had no
the
choice.
Lakers have just only significantly improved. Like I was a bit worried about Rob Pelinka, what he's done in the past, but I think I don't know what he's done. He's probably had extra Weebics or something, but he's massively improved. Like getting Gabe Vincent, who's got that finals experience, Torian Prince, who shoots 37% from the 3, Reddish, who's got a 6'8", 7 wingspan. You got Jackson Hayes, who's a Terry defender, and then Wood 38% from 3. Like that's just the most unstoppable, complete team, which is why the Lakers winning in 6.
I've got the same. I mean, what a finals it would be, Lakers Celtics. I think both teams are good enough to make it. LeBron James Finals MVP. The Lakers winning it all would cap off. You know, I'm not saying he's retiring, but would cap off a already spectacular career. And I just think that would be the craziest final. Lakers Celtics rivalry. LeBron James. You know, that would be a sick finals, and that's my pick. And Lakers winning it.
Yeah. Okay. In 6 as well, Oscar?
Yeah, 6, 7, something like that. Around that, longer.
Okay.
I think it's going to be sweet.
Yeah, well, it's a shame we don't have a full panel today because I would definitely be outnumbered, as I am sure Tyson would definitely agree with
pick
both
the same.
of your picks. But look, I'm not going to be opposed to your picks. I think those are both really good picks. I think that if the Celtics, if they do make it click, I think they will beat Milwaukee. But like I said, I have reservations. The Lakers, I think it's going to be a gauntlet for them. And I look at their age, I look at their own, same way with the Clippers, with the health, it is going to be a gauntlet because from round 1 to the finals, it's going to be tough for whichever team comes out of the West. But I think that with another year of Darvin Ham as the coach, let's not forget he was a rookie coach last year, And the Lakers will adapt. They may make some more changes in the midseason like they did last year. So I think that those picks, I don't necessarily have a problem with any of them, and I think it would be certainly a very fairy tale final story. But we will move in to the individual awards and see what you guys have to say here, because the NBA MVP, we had Joel Embiid win it last year. We had Jokic win it the 2 years before. We had Giannis win it the 2 years before that. Is this the year that an American will finally come back and win the award? There's only one American who's in the top 5 in the odds, and that is Jason Tatum. The rest of them, he's sitting at 4. Jokic is at 1. Luka Doncic at 2. Giannis at 3. Tatum at 4. Embiid at 5. Oscar, I know you have some a bold prediction for this pick. So I'm going to hold off on you, and I'm going to switch to you, Reuben, to ask your opinion of your NBA MVP for this season.
I think a lot of NBA reporters are feeling remorse about not giving it to Jokic last season, especially with that big meltdown that Embiid's had, and the 76ers are going to get worse. I've had 3 MVP candidates. I've got Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, and I've got a dark horse one, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'll explain that one later. But I just think with how the media is portrayed and everything, and I think how good the Nuggets are, I don't see how it can't be anyone but Jokic. Like, I could understand Tatum, but as you said, Luka, they're such a complete team, and there's going to be so many scorers on that team. And I just don't know how Tatum's going to get those MVP numbers to be able to, outcompete like a Jokic or a Doncic or that kind of player. So I'm going to say Jokic for MVP. I'll go safe here.
Yep. I think I have him as my top 3 MVP candidates too. When I look at the stats, I'm just looking like Jokic 25, 12, and 10 last year, but it was the percentages, also the efficiency, which he did it with, that really solidified his case. But I think, in my opinion, that he will narrowly lose the MVP. And I think that similar sort of how we had voter fatigue of Jokic last year with Embiid, we had a bit of voter fatigue as well when Giannis won back-to-back MVPs. And I think he's going to win the MVP again with the acquisition of Damian Lillard. I think that's going to improve his stats that much more that we get to that point where we can say, no, he actually does have the comparable stats to Jokic, who I think will put him over the top and win MVP. So I have Giannis. I think the Bucks are going to have the best record in the NBA too. And I'm going to have Giannis as my MVP.
I've gone a different route. I'm out of the top 5. No one in the top 5 is this person. And I was going to pick Luka Doncic before I had a little think about it because, what a talent. But then I thought the Mavericks aren't going to be a good seed. They're going to be, 7th, 8th seed, maybe 6th seed.
Yep,
and then
I agree.
And then a little name came across my screen, and we know him as LeBron James. I think LeBron is going to have one of the best seasons ever. He's going to average 39 and 6 around those numbers. They're going to be the 3, 4 seed. Maybe the 2s can get up to the 2 seed because they're going to be a good bloody team. LeBron's going to lead this team to the finals, win the MVP, and it's going to be one of the greatest LeBron seasons we've seen. If he can stay healthy. That's my only question about it. If he can stay healthy, he's winning the MVP. Lock it in.
You can have it first.
It's a lock.
I don't understand how he can have an MVP impact when you got AD and his scoring numbers, and then you got Austin Reeves numbers who are going to go up, and you've also got D'Angelo Russell.
Points last year. He averaged 30 the year before that. What are we talking about? He can average the numbers. It's not the numbers aren't the problem. The wins have been the problem in the past couple of years. He hasn't getting enough wins. He 2 years ago he got the bloody scoring champion. He was a scoring champion, scoring leader. So
yeah, but LeBron has said that AD is the best player. I really think the Lakers are tactically making sure that AD is the number one player.
LeBron's the most humble guy in the bloody league. Of course he's going to say that. But when he's still scoring 28, 30 points as a 40-year-old, you can't go past him. And this is one of his last seasons, I think, that they can do it. He's got a good team, good bloody team around him. They're going to get the wins. Now it's just up to LeBron to put up LeBron-type numbers, which we know are 30-plus points, 6-plus assists, and 6-plus rebounds. Like, we know this. And if you can average those numbers with a good set of wins, I reckon he'll be right in the running for it.
Look, I think it's only possible if the Lakers convincingly have the best record in the NBA and LeBron is convincingly the number one player in that team.
I don't
If
even think
AD's the
that.
number one player, I don't see how he can win it.
80's never been the number one player on this team. You can say what you want. 80's never been the number one player on this Lakers team. LeBron might have said, yeah, he is. He might have been, come to the Lakers trying to be the number one player. Take the baton from LeBron. But LeBron's always been the guy. He's always been the guy getting 25-plus points a game, every single game, 8-plus rebounds, 6-plus assists. It's LeBron numbers. We know he's averaged his whole career, and I genuinely think LeBron, it's a top 3 seed, can win MVP this year. And I don't even think that's crazy to think about.
Listen, I just don't think that when you put him up against a Jokic, against a Giannis, against a Doncic, I think he could be there. I just don't think that there will be enough to catapult him to that level. And the other thing that I will say with LeBron is I think that now he is probably more focused on winning that championship. And I think that he is going to be thinking about the playoffs. And I understand what you're saying, but let's not act like LeBron has been the healthiest player over the past three.
That's true. That's
seasons.
That's the only quandary about it.
I don't think when you look at Giannis and Jokic, who can play 82 games, same with Tatum and same with Doncic, really, like these guys have the ability to play all those games. I don't disagree. If we're going on who is the best player in the NBA and who, based off that, is going to win the MVP, I don't think I think LeBron's still there with those guys in terms of overall talent as
only
players.
Played 66 games last year and he won it.
Yeah, but look, okay, I understand that, but that was we talked about, and the one thing that is LeBron's favor to an extent is the media. Now, if he did do good enough, I think they could, but I just think that now the NBA is slowly transitioning out of the LeBron dominance era, and they're going to look. I think it's a great pick. I was very shocked that you said that. I think it's a great pick. I just don't think LeBron. He's still amazing, but I think when you look at his overall impact, he's not the same player that he once was. Stats wise, he can still put up stats. No, yes, you can say that because I definitely, most certainly can say it because
he's
your eyes
just
tell you
more threes now.
Your eyes tell you, okay? No, but this is the thing.
They look at the number of wins. That's what they look at.
Yes, no, but they also look at your eye test, okay? They look at the stats, but
the eye test.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Your eyes, what you see on the court are more important than anything that comes up on a piece of paper in the box score. Okay? Now I understand when the MVP overall you're like, this is this, this is this, this is this. But then you look at when you get to the nitty-gritties of it, okay? Because if LeBron were to be in the MVP conversation, okay, his stats aren't going to be better than Jokic's. His stats aren't going to be better than Doncic's. They're not going to be better. They could be the same, but they're not going to be better, okay? So then you look at the next thing is the wins and the impact that the players have with their teams. And I don't think that when you look at LeBron, that he has the impact now of a Giannis. He has the impact of a Jokic on their respective teams. And I think that is why, if he were to put up those stats, he would fall just short of winning the MVP.
I think LeBron has the opportunity this year, out of any year, to average a triple-double. We saw last year.
We're past that. That won't be enough. That wasn't enough.
We're past averaging a triple-double?
Yeah, Jokic did it last year.
Nah, I don't think so. I think if LeBron did it, 25-point plus triple-double, if his name's in the top 4, I believe he's winning it.
Listen, Oscar, I love the pick. Okay, I love the pick. We are gonna have to move on though. Okay, we're gonna go to the young guns. NBA Rookie of the Year. We've seen what they've been doing in preseason. Absolutely brilliant stuff from the guys. Look, we have Wemby at the top of the list for the odds. We have Chet Holmgren, we have Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, and then Thompson rounding out the top 5. Reuben, Who do you think? I'm going to ask you who you think's going to win. But the general consensus is that Wembanyama's going to take it home. So my second question is, if Wembanyama weren't to win the award, maybe you do pick him, maybe you don't. Who do you think is the biggest threat to challenging him for the award?
I think Wemby will win it. My top three candidates is Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, and I've got a dark horse again, Strawther. He's a point guard for the Denver Nuggets, and I think in preseason he was able to average 17.8 points
right?
a game. Yeah, Julian Strawther. Yeah. He was able to average 18 points a game in 4 games for the Nuggets, and I think he'll be able to fill the void of that Bruce Brown off the bench. Bruce Brown? Yeah, Bruce Brown off the bench.
Yeah.
He'll be able to fill that void if he's able to develop properly. But I do think the biggest threat is Chet. Like, I think I'll say why later, but I think Chet's going to be a big part of Thunder's success this season.
I completely agree. Victor, I wasn't sold on Victor. You know, he was this guy, this next generational talent, and then I saw him in preseason, and wow, he is a very, very good basketball player, and I don't see anyone beating him out unless, of course, there are injuries. But if Wembanyama wasn't born, didn't join the NBA, I do think Chet as well. He was looking very, very dangerous for OKC and putting up crazy numbers.
Yeah, well, they went head to head, and all the talk was about Wembanyama, but Chet actually played just as good stats-wise, and they got the win. So, look, and I think that is going to be a big part of the reason why Wembanyama's rookie campaign is so strong, because he's the prodigy. He's the number one pick. He's got everyone behind him. San Antonio, likable franchise. Number one picks, Tim Duncan, David Robinson. He's joining that
Greg Popovich
echelon of superstars that turned out to be for the Spurs as a number one pick. But the thing that I know about phenoms in the NBA and about their health, we saw it with Chet Holmgren last year. He got hurt. And when I look at Wembanyama's build and I look at an 82-game NBA season, I don't like what might happen. And I knock on wood, because if Wembanyama is healthy, I think he will win the award. Okay, let's not get things mixed up. But I just think when you look at certain players that come into the NBA with his build, with his skill set, it takes some time to get your body used to the conditioning. I understand he's played pro basketball in France, but this is the NBA. It's a different kettle of fish, in my opinion. And he's going to be going up against guys night in, night out on the road. If he's not injured, I think he takes it home. But I think with having a year to get a bit stronger, to hopefully know his body a bit better, I do think Chet Holmgren is going to win the Rookie of the Year award, because I just think he's the next best player. And I think he has the chance to make a big impact on an Oklahoma City Thunder team that is ascending.
Honestly, I don't hate that. I don't really have anything to dispute against that. Like, I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. Kind of like Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, like that Rookie of the Year race was really close. But I just think Wemby's got the media side, and I think if they are close, Wemby will end up getting it for that reason, probably.
Wemby just looks like a freak out there. Like, he's a talent. He's a talented baller, and I know Chet is as well. But Wembanyama, I think he's on a different level in that rookie class, I feel. Chet's close, and Reuben says going to be close, but I just see he's very talented. He's very talented.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, we'll see how they go. Look, before we get into my fun little segment, we are going to talk about the most improved, because I think this is a little bit of a fun segment too. I'm not going to ask for any explanation. I'm just going to ask for a name in the interest of time. Oscar, who is the NBA's most improved player this year?
Alperen Sengun.
Wow. Okay. That's a good one. I'm not faulting it. Reuben, who is your NBA most improved player this year?
Oh, this is tough. I had originally Dennis Schroeder, Scotty Barnes, and Shaden Sharp, but I'm going to go with Scotty Barnes. Yeah, Dennis Schroeder.
Wow, it's a crazy pick.
Well, okay. Yeah. Who'd you say? Sorry, who was your pick?
Scotty Barnes, my final pick.
Scotty Barnes. Well, look, just for our viewers, the top 5 in terms of the odds is Mikal Bridges, Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole, Cade Cunningham, and Anthony Simons. Reuben and Oscar have both picked against the top 5. I'm also going to pick against the top 5. I'm going to take Paolo Banchero to win my most improved player.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Good
That's
pick.
who I'm taking. That's going to lead very nicely into this next segment, guys, because my segment that I wanted to pick for you guys and for our viewers, for a bit of a fun, we're going to talk about surprise teams. We're going to talk about disappointing teams, okay? Now, I left it up to Reuben and Oscar to decide how they define a surprise team. But in my view, a surprise team is a team for me that doesn't have a lot of expectations going into this season and someone that is going to surprise a lot of people. So I'll get the ball rolling because along with my most improved player, I have the Orlando Magic as my surprise team for this season. I think they have a lot of good young pieces that are really going to translate into a play-in tournament berth, which is going to translate into snatching the 8 seed, in my opinion. And I think the Magic's going to surprise a lot of people and make the playoffs as the 8 seed. I'm going to leave it at that because of time, but I want to talk about that a lot more in a future episode because Banchero has been showing me a lot. Wagner's been showing me a lot, and I think that the Magic, as a good young team, are going to have a lot to offer in the Eastern Conference this year. Oscar, I'll pass over to you. Your surprise team of the season.
I've got 2.
Yep.
My first one's OKC. I think they are an extremely talented team. I think Giddey is a freak. SGA, he's going to have, like Reuben said, an MVP season, MVP-like season. And their team is just, and Chet now joining back into that squad, it's a freaky looking team. I definitely think they can exceed expectations. And then I also got the Timberwolves. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I love it.
With Anthony Edwards, he is going to ball. He will ball out. And I'm going to leave it at that because we're running out of time. But those are my 2 picks, and I reckon they're both going to exceed expectations.
Okay, I'll make this quick. Surprise team. Well, Oscar said it. OKC. I just think with Chet Holmgren coming back, he's going to provide all the missing pieces. And I looked historically, last 2 seasons, like the Kings got the 3rd seed. No one expected them to make the playoffs. Same with the Grizzlies season before, they got the 2 seed. So I believe that the Thunder are going to really shock people.
Wow,
they're going to be a top
big
3
surprise.
team in the West. Yeah, top 3 team, mark my words. I just think all the weaknesses in the Thunder, Chet Holmgren covers them all. So if he stays healthy, top 3 team.
Yeah, listen, I'll go on to my disappointment team of the season, but Oscar, I love your pick of the Timberwolves. That was probably my next choice, really, because I think now, this off-season and now in this regular season, Anthony Edwards is the guy now. He's going to be the number 1 option on that team. I think that's going to shift from Karl Anthony Towns to him. But my disappointment team of the season, Reuben, you're not going to like this, but I'm thinking it's the Memphis Grizzlies. And a quick reason why. Ja Morant's sitting out the first 25 games. Steven Adams is out for the season. I don't think these 2 things mix. Now, Marcus Smart, big difference maker for them. But in the end, there's something that I think with the West this year, the Grizzlies are, for me, my second is the Dallas Mavericks, but they were disappointing last year, so I don't really think they can get much more disappointing this year. But I don't like the Kyrie, Luka Doncic pairing, so I don't see them going anywhere again this year.
Well, my disappointing team is actually the Mavericks because I don't know where you have them. I think I've seen a lot of reports having them around the 6 to 8 seed. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs again. I genuinely don't. Like, the West is improving, and I don't think the Mavericks done the offseason. They got Grant Williams. What's he going to do? Like, and how do you expect Dwight Powell, your starting center, to make the playoffs? I'm sorry, they're just not going to make it. I could name 10 teams better than the Mavericks. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, well, they actually started the kid from Duke. What's his name? Derek Lively in the preseason. So maybe Dwight Powell won't be the starting center for the Mavericks. Now, I think we have lost Oscar, unfortunately, but we will get his pick in due course. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 42, our NBA predictions episode for the season. It will be great to see how these turn out. Keep on the social media. I am in the process of making a fantasy league for the viewers of the podcast to see who wants to join in. So stay tuned on that. Send us a message on Instagram if you guys are interested in joining our fantasy league. We are not hard to find. We will be back with weekly episodes starting from now on, both with a combination of the NFL and the NBA. But Reuben, thank you for joining me. Oscar, thank you as well,
Yeah.
even though he has unfortunately disconnected with us. But that is all, everyone, for Priceless Takes, episode 42. I am your host, Luka Price, and we will see you next time.